Hey guys, so obviously it's been a really long time since I've done a video, and my last channel update video, which I released, I think it was at the beginning of October, um, I explained some of the reasons for that. And yeah, one of the things I mentioned was some difficulty on the writing front as far as the Smoke and Mirrors series that I had been working on. And so yeah, that lately has been like the main hurdle I've been trying to overcome in my mind. So since that's been the main reason for the delay lately, I figured I should just sit down and catch up on some of these follow up videos, the ones where I don't have to uh, script them out. I figure if I start making these, that'll kind of help get me back fully into my lost mode, and that may help me um, overcome this sort of writer's block that I've hit. I do have an update regarding the Patreon and my Patreon subscribers, but since that only applies to some of you, I'm going to save that for the end of the video. As always, there are time codes in the description, but for now I want to get straight into addressing a few of the comments that I received to the video titled A Shining Force. This video was kind of laying the groundwork of exploring the parapsychological abilities that are demonstrated in Lost. And if you haven't seen that or you would like to rewatch it, you can click the link right up here. Normally, I strongly recommend that you guys do that before continuing with a follow-up video. But in this case, I don't think it will be particularly necessary. So it's up to you. Indeed, the ability for someone to heal others is also often established, especially in the case of Jacob. He healed the cancer of Juliet's sister, the life-threatening injuries of Dogen's son, and the injuries Ilana was hospitalized for when he came to visit her. I want to start with a comment from Time Gentleman. He says, "Did Jacob cure Juliet? Seems unusual that Ben would ask him to do so via Richard in order to aid in his machinations, and even more so that Jacob would agree to. Isn't it more likely that Ben faked the medical file, in a similar way to how you suggest he partially faked the traffic camera shot of Ishmael Bakir, and then later showed Juliet live footage of Rachel continuing in good health, which in reality she had consistently been in since Juliet left for the island? I think it's telling that Ben shows Juliet no footage of Rachel being sick, and that we know Ben has consistently been lying about Jacob's communications otherwise." This is one of those things where once somebody points it out, you're like, oh wow, how did I never figure that out? The possibility that this was a deception of Ben's genuinely never occurred to me. And once Time Gentleman pointed it out, I was like, duh, obviously that's what happened. So yeah, major props to Time Gentleman. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Jacob also seems to have been concealing the lighthouse in a similar way.
I don't understand. How is it that we've never seen it before?
One potential explanation for how this works is that the person wielding the island's energy, in this case Jacob, is using it to warp the space-time around a specific location in almost the exact way that the island's own electromagnetic perimeter generally conceals it from the outside world. If a person were to come across one of these concealed locations, they would simply pass through warped space-time without even realizing it, bypassing the hidden area entirely, and never laying eyes on the concealed structures or locations within. Next, I want to go over multiple things that Show Costs brings up, starting with Agree on the concealment. In my own videos about the island map, there's several instances of the characters walking by / near the lighthouse. One of them being Saeed trekking to the cable in Season 1, or in the opposite direction, the Tailies, Sawyer, Jen, and Michael trekking to the beach. I kind of view it as them just not seeing it, just like Muggles can't see Hogwarts. In my video, I described this concealment phenomenon as a warping of space-time, but I think you can also interpret it in a more psychic sense. I think it's perfectly plausible that Jacob is so parapsychologically adept that he is more than capable of affecting the minds of anyone on the island that may come across areas that he doesn't want them to find. And so, therefore, they're just not mentally capable of perceiving it because of this psychic interference. Without question, Walt displays the most blatant examples of this ability. When he has reason to want the rain to stop, it does.
I haven't given up on your dog. But I'm going to do everything I can to find him.
No, you won't.
Yeah, Walt, I will.
You don't care about Vincent.
I'm going to get your dog back as soon as it stops raining. Hey, listen to me. I'm going to get your dog back.
Regarding Walt and the scene where Michael says he's going to find Vincent as soon as it stops raining, and then it stops raining, doesn't necessarily have to mean that Walt has some control over the weather. Not that I disagree with it, since Walt is special and Locke also demonstrated this ability, but the "I'm going to get your dog back as soon as it stops raining" is a very classic "be careful what you wish for" trope. I agree with this point. In this video, I did kind of present it as a definitive example of Walt demonstrating parapsychological abilities, and I really shouldn't have. I think a lot of the incidents with Walt and the dice, for example, I think all of these are good examples of establishing a pattern of Walt getting what he wants, and how together they seem to suggest that he is manifesting the reality that he is interested in manifesting. But by no means does that mean that every single example is a definitive demonstration of that. Some of them may have just been coincidence. It is once again open to interpretation. Before moving on from this sequence, Miles' success at receiving information despite the lack of a body is also sometimes cited as an inconsistency. Again, I disagree. What Miles actually says to Mr. Gray is that what he does works a lot better if there's a body.
For what I do, it's much better if there's a body.
This doesn't mean he is not also capable of retrocognition when it comes to other inanimate objects, such as those found in the grandson's bedroom. If Miles needed to know the thoughts of the deceased, he would have needed the remains to be present. But since he was only searching for an object hidden in the room, he did not. There were some theories that the Ghostbusters device was picking up hair and dead skin cells in the room, which was enough for Miles to get some sense of the dead person, even though there was no body. Like with Jacob, which was just ash. I had never come across this idea before, and I honestly like it quite a bit. Up until this point, I had been presuming that the device was merely for theatrics, but when there's really nobody in the room, that doesn't really hold up too well. So I definitely think this idea holds some more weight. This one may be even less seen than telekinesis, as there's actually only one explicit example that comes to mind. When Ben approaches the altar in the tunnels beneath the temple, his torch is slowly extinguished just before the monster emerges. Then, once it has retreated, the flame reignites. Since the cabin didn't burn down in The Man Behind the Curtain, and there are no signs of flames from within when Locke runs out, the Man in Black could have just deignited, if we can use that word, the flame like in the chamber. Once again, I think Shokas is absolutely right. In fact, when I was editing the cabin sequence for the telekinesis section of this video, I noticed something that I had never noticed before. There's a moment when both Ben and Locke are looking at the flames on the floor, and then in an instant, as the camera focuses on John, the flames and the orange hue they were casting disappear and aren't seen again for the rest of the sequence. Locke even seems to react to that sudden change. This is another example of something where no matter how many times I've seen the show, there's always new stuff to catch. It seems apparent that Mother was somehow keeping anyone other than herself from accessing this location.
I spent 30 years searching for that place you brought me as a child, that waterfall with that beautiful light. And I walked this island from end to end, not once coming close to finding it.
So now I have two separate comments from Homo sapiens 99 that I want to address, starting with, while I do agree that the heart was being concealed by supernatural means, if it was Mother doing it intentionally, why did she blindfold Jacob and the Men in Black? Yeah, so I had addressed this in my Underworld video and its follow-up, but I really should have included it in this video as it was pretty relevant. But yeah, it seems to me if a person is led to one of these concealed locations by someone who has access to it, that new person can now access it as well. I think that this is how the Man in Black and his Egyptian followers accessed the source. Jacob took his brother straight to the source when he threw him into it, and I think that for a large period of time after this, the Man in Black was able to travel to and access the source. I think eventually Jacob reconcealed the source from the Man in Black, but I think until he did that, he was able to find it. Along those lines, I think this is also why the Man in Black no longer needed to kill the candidates once Jack led him to the source. In my opinion, the whole reason that the Man in Black needs all of the candidates dead is so that the concealment of the source will be lifted. But if Jack, who has just been granted access to the source, leads him there willingly, he no longer has to kill the candidates that are left. And indeed, from that point on, you don't see him make any effort to kill the candidates, other than Jack when Jack attacks him. Prior to that, the Man in Black was getting ready to just go ahead and get on his boat and leave. So getting back to the question, I think if Mother hadn't blindfolded the children, then from that point on, they would have been able to access the source. When Jacob and his brother are children, Mother claims she has made it so that they cannot hurt each other.
But we're people. Does that mean that we can hurt each other?
I've made it so you can never hurt each other.
And while she certainly seems to believe this is true, I am not convinced this is actually the case. For starters, this same episode goes on to show us Jacob hurting his brother on multiple occasions.
What did you do? What did you do?
Now perhaps what Mother really meant by hurt was simply that they couldn't kill each other. But again, I'm not convinced. Consider that after Jacob tosses his brother into the source, the Man in Black's heart stops pumping and his brain stops functioning. While I absolutely agree his displaced consciousness still lives on, Jacob has effectively, and quite technically, killed his brother's original physical form. Surely Mother's alleged protection would have prevented this. And that brings me to the last comment that I want to address, also from Homo sapiens 99, in which they say, what do you suppose Mother meant when she said Jacob and the Man in Black couldn't hurt each other if it wasn't true? So, as I believe I say in the video, I think it's apparent that Mother believes that this is true, that she has made that true. But in my opinion, many of the things that Mother believes are not objectively true. And also, in my opinion, one of those things is Jacob and the Man in Black being able to hurt each other. We see Jacob hurt his brother on multiple occasions, and even if we assume that by hurt, Mother actually just meant kill, they're just not able to kill each other, even in that scenario, I'm not sure that that's true, because in every technical sense, Jacob does kill his brother. So as to the question of what do I suppose she meant when she said that, I think she meant what she said. I think she was just wrong. And that's actually kind of the perfect transition into another Lost channel that I want to add to my recommendations. Recently, a Reddit user with the username stunning_structure73 brought the YouTube channel Gibby to my attention. Now, the last thing that I wanted to say before I go, sorry, I know it's getting dark. So Patreon. Back in October, I alluded to how the fact that I stopped charging my Patreon donors during the months where I'm not making new videos, I mentioned how I have concerns that me stopping and then resuming these donations could at some point be cause for confusion or inconvenience for people. You know, for someone to get charged several months after the last time they were charged, they may not remember or expect that charge to occur. So for that reason, and also the fact that, you know, a channel like this, about a topic, you know, about a show that ended so long ago, I don't think that this channel was ever or is ever going to become the type of income generator where I could do these videos specifically full time. And therefore, it kind of defeats the original purpose, I think. You know, kind of the motivation for starting the Patreon, which was to kind of maybe build up some income until I could monetize the channel. Now, that said, I really like what I've been doing with the candidate names and numbers, and I didn't want to stop doing that. So basically what I think I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna discontinue the Patreon, but basically I'm just gonna make it so that if anyone donates even just once, you know, whatever amount, then if you want a candidate name and number, as long as the number hasn't already been claimed, then I think I'm just going to allow people to choose one, to do that. But beyond that, you know, if you guys want to donate, I promise you that that would be very much appreciated. But I don't want anyone to feel obligated to do so, or I guess I really don't want to keep asking in every video for people to donate. You know, I like the idea of just thanking the patrons and showing the candidate names and numbers and then moving on. I've said this before, I think most YouTube creators would probably agree with this, but I really hate feeling like I have to ask for donations in every video. So yeah, that's another reason that I think I'm just gonna stop doing that. And yeah, I want to thank the Patreon donors, past and present, especially the ones that have, consistently been doing it in spite of my inconsistent schedule. It really means a lot to me that you guys have found that worth doing. And I'm going to message everyone on Patreon, basically going over everything I just said and, kind of establishing, if you guys want to stop donating, that won't affect anything as far as the candidate stuff. And yeah, I'm just going to reach out to everybody individually, but I just wanted to go ahead and put that in this video. But okay, I think that's everything I have for today. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Oh, you're still here. Hopefully that means you enjoyed this video. If so, please consider sticking around and being a constant for this channel by clicking right up here to subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon if you would like to be notified when more videos like this one arrive. In the meantime, feel free to check out previous content from this channel by clicking here or here. Oh no. Please subscribe.